My God, I thought, I've been shot in the head. That was Edmundo Morales Jr. My name is Kevin, and this is History Goon. What is going on, everybody? I'm back. We're back together as a family, sort of, or whatever we are here, whatever our relationship is at this point. So for the last, 4 months, it has been incredibly cold here. So I wanted to get a little tropical, hence the festive shirt. We are going off to the tropical paradise of Miami, Ohio. No, I'm kidding. Miami, Florida is where we're headed this week to do crime in the 80s. Because I think that's all anybody in Miami did in the 80s was crime, according to what I know of through Grand Theft Auto Vice City. Any resemblance to the main character is... Oh, Jesus, I just realized my shirt looks just like his. So on this episode, we're going to talk about what is to this day the deadliest day in FBI history and what led up to the events of April 11th, 1986. So the best place to start, just like when we did North Hollywood, is going to be with talking about our scumbags of the hour. William Russell Matix and Michael Lee Platt. These are two men that were brought together by their military service and some shared tragedies. These guys would go on to commit a spree of robberies that ended with a shootout resulting in nearly 200 rounds being fired. So to start off, I had kind of a hard time finding any real background on these guys. The only information that I could find was directly from a FOIA document, which if you don't know what that is, or if you're not from the US, it's a Freedom of Information Act document where you have to basically go through a bunch of bureaucratic horse through the government to get information on something. And if you have something misspelled or you don't word it exactly right, you get a bunch of weird stuff, which is why they do it that way, to make sure that you can't get information that you want. With all that being said, let's start off with William Russell Matix. Matix was born June 25th, 1951 in Lewisburg, Ohio. Growing up, he had a speech impediment. It was a pretty severe stutter that never really got cleared up until he went into the military. When he was a kid, he was... It's not funny, but at the same time, like, if this guy wasn't an asshole, this would be... It wouldn't be funny, but because he is, it's hilarious. As he grew up, kids picked on him mercilessly for his stutter, and they would call him Willie to his face. Which, again, that's not funny if he had grown up to just be a normal person. But because he sucks, we're allowed to laugh at him. We're not victim blaming, we're victim shaming. Because, I guess technically we would be victim blaming here. Oh well, he sucks. Even with all the harassing, he was described as being a pretty polite kid, very courteous and well-mannered. And he was also a regular at the local FFA. And for anybody, again, that doesn't know, if you're not from a rural area or the United States in general, that is the Future Farmers of America. Think of it like, simplest terms to put it in would be Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts for farming. You know, they're doing... they do like livestock shows and stuff like that. It's pretty cool. I was never an FFA kid, but I knew some FFA kids. After he graduated from New Madison High School in New Madison, Ohio, he joined the Marine Corps. He served for 3 years, in which time he had 0 disciplinary actions against him. During his time in the Corps, he rose to the rank of E5 as a bakery foreman. Right out on the front lines. bacon baguettes. But of course, this is a period in time where I don't think we were really doing much in the world. Um, During an evaluation, a commanding officer had this to say, quote, "If it was in my power, then I would like to promote this man immediately. I'd be surprised and sorely disappointed if this sergeant didn't become a command sergeant major. I would welcome an opportunity to serve with this soldier anytime." Good soldier. Great. Good to know. After he was discharged honorably from the Marine Corps, he returned to New Madison and got a job at the Hobart Manufacturing Company in Troy, Ohio. Now, I'm not 100% sure which Hobart Manufacturing this would be. I'm not sure if it's the same company that has headquarters and manufacturing here in my home state of Vermont, which is Hobart. They make like industrial ovens for like restaurants and stuff like that. Um, Here, their location here, they are right on Lake Champlain, and I used to do pest control, and I used to have to do the exterior of the building, where basically I would go around and I would check. So if you work in any kind of manufacturing or a restaurant or anything, or if you've ever been to one, you've seen those black boxes around the outside of the building, or maybe fake rocks, the ones that look super real. Those are what are called bait stations, and those have to be opened, and you have to put like a little green or red bait blocks in them to keep mice and rodents and stuff like that out of places. And being right on the lake and having to do the outside of the building first is great in the summer because you're outside in the sun. It's really nice. You get a nice breeze, cools you down a little bit because you're literally 15 feet from the lake. Now, winter time, on the other hand, sucks because when you're handling these little blocks of rat magic, you are not allowed to wear cloth gloves because it can seep into your skin. So I had to wear blue nitrile gloves, which are fine usually, except when you're outside long enough that when you peel your gloves off, your hands are almost the same color underneath them. Because again, you're outside right on the lake with a nice breeze to really cool you down. Then you have to sit in your truck with your hands on the heater to thaw your fingers out so you can move them. Anyway, I don't do that anymore, thankfully. The money was good, but coming home with the shakes sucked. A lot of shower beers. You start killing stuff, right? And eventually you stop feeling bad about it. And then you start going, I need to stop doing this because I don't feel bad about killing things anymore. It makes you really think, how far could I take? No, I'm kidding. No, it was mostly just, you know, uh, drowning rats and then going home and drinking in the shower because it was uh, kind of up. Anyway, like many other guys who got out of the military, Matix missed it and he really wanted to go back in. So 13 months after leaving the Marine Corps, he enlisted in the Army where he attended airborne training and joined the military police. Again, model soldier, became a platoon leader and a patrol supervisor while serving at Fort Campbell, Kentucky, which is also the home of the Night Stalkers, who made an appearance in the Black Hawk Down episode, the Battle of Mogadishu episode. Fort Campbell's got some spooky dudes at it. Anyway, but while he was here, he was in the MP unit with Michael Lee Platt. Matix would meet his first wife, Patricia, while he was undergoing speech therapy at Walter Reed Army Hospital in 1975, and they got married after he was discharged in 1976. After they were married, the Matixes would move around a whole bunch, including, to name a few places, Tacoma Park, Maryland, Poughkeepsie, New York, Hyde Park, New York, Toledo, Ohio, Columbus, Ohio, Delaware, Ohio. During all the moving, Matix held a series of different jobs. He attended culinary school, meat cutting school, aviation mechanics training. One of those things is not like the other, The couple was happy even though William didn't really stay at a job for all that long. Tragedy struck on December 30th, 1983, when Patty Matix and another female nurse were stabbed and killed on duty at Riverside Methodist Hospital, the Research Foundation wing. Patty had given birth to the couple's only child, Melissa, 2 months before this. Her coworker Joyce McFadden said that she was going to the library to do some research, and at about 4:30 p.m., Joyce was paged over the intercom system to the cancer lab. Less than 30 minutes later, Joyce McFadden and Patty Matix would both be found bound and gagged and stabbed to death. Patty's wedding ring was missing when the bodies were discovered, which is not really all that odd, but also at the same time, knowing what I know now about this guy, where was he when all this happened, you know? Of course, he is a suspect in the murder, but there wasn't enough evidence to go after him after a short investigation. This, of course, having your spouse brutally murdered would probably mess up anybody. It screwed him up pretty good. After almost 4 years of being married and having a child, his family is destroyed by a senseless random crime. Not only that, but the same day as the murder of his wife, his father had a near fatal stroke. He's not having a good day. December 30th is not going to be a day that he looks back on fondly, ever. Happy New Year indeed. His father would eventually pass away in April of 1984 after a battle with cancer, and I believe there was a series of more strokes in there as well. Because those things tend to happen like that, unfortunately. In the 4-month period between his wife and his father's death, Matix traveled between Columbus and Cincinnati 3 to 4 times a week to help his father. And during this time, he became a born-again Christian and became very involved with his church and started giving public testimony about how his religious views had kind of helped him move past the loss of his wife. He did get a life insurance payoff from the death of Patty, somewhere in the neighborhood of about $180,000, which pissed him off because between the life insurance and Social Security benefits, this is a lot short of what he was expecting to get. Obviously leaves him a little bitter, you know, because his wife's dead, and then he also didn't get as much money as he should get for having a dead wife. His old Army buddy, Michael Lee Platt, reached out to him after hearing about the death of his wife and urged him to move to Miami and work with him. Before we go too much further, we kind of need to jump in and talk about Michael Platt at this point. Because from that part of Matix's story to where we're going to go, these guys are now intertwined. Their story is the same. So we have to tell both sides of it to get there. Platt was born February 3rd, 1954 in Wales, Vagina, California, which is Spanish for San Diego, I believe. Much like Matix, he led a pretty uneventful childhood. He's the son of a career Navy man. His father was a petty officer corpsman. So not like a super high-ranking officer, but, you know, he's doing his thing. The family lived in San Diego until 1965 when his father transferred to Pearl Harbor, Hawaii, where he was assigned to a hospital ship. And they then moved back to California when his father was reassigned to the Naval Air Station in Alameda. The family moved again about a year later to Yuma, Arizona, where they would remain until his dad retired, which is strange to have a Navy officer shipped to Arizona. I don't know if maybe they have an airfield there. I have no idea. That doesn't make any sense. So there's no water in Arizona, let alone ocean, to put a Navy in. But then again, I could show you pictures of the birthplace of the U.S. Navy, which is a creek under a bridge in Whitehall, New York. So, you know, which is also like, I don't know, 35 minutes from my house. Platt graduated from KOFA High School in 1972. He was actually a 3-sport athlete all through high school, playing baseball, football, and basketball. Directly after graduation, he decided to follow in Dad's footsteps and join the military, opting for the Army over the Navy, which I'm sure probably pissed Dad off to no end. So now here is where the streams are going to cross for the first time. Platt was accepted into Airborne Jump School after basic and then assigned to the military police unit at Fort Campbell, Kentucky, like we mentioned with Matix, and ends up in the same unit as William Matix. Platt would also meet his first wife, Regina Lyland, while at Fort Campbell. At Fort Campbell. And the pair got married on Halloween 1975. In 1977, Platt would be stationed in Korea at Camp Kitty Hawk, which is 3 miles south of the 38th parallel. If you're not familiar with what the 38th parallel is, that, that's the border between North and South Korea, which to this day, still kind of a tense place to be. Um, Platt returned to the States in 1978. He and Regina then moved into a house in Monterey, California, which I'm sure was nice. So, not too long after they move into this house, their son's born. And then in 1979, they moved from Monterey, California, right to Miami, Florida, which is Regina's hometown. When they arrived in Miami, he began working for his father in law, but in 1982, he just kind of like up and quit out of nowhere and starts his own property maintenance business. He called the business Blade Cutters. I did see another name for it. It's called Yankee Clippers, which is also pretty cool. I believe that's like a ship, if I'm not mistaken. Um, but he starts this with his brother, and his wife worked as the bookkeeper for the business. When Matix moved to Miami in 1984, he's probably looking for a fresh start. You know, he's got a dead wife. His father recently just died as well. He hooks up with his old Army buddy Platt and starts working for him and eventually bought into the company as a co-owner, which, hey, if you can find people that you like working with enough that you're willing to go into business with them as a partner, and you can do that and not hate each other, that's impressive. Because I personally have seen a lot of friendships go into business and then they don't end well. Platt and Matix worked closely together, cutting grass, trimming shrubs, and they quickly became much better friends than they were before. And they do a lot of time, they spend a lot of time reminiscing over their time in the Army as well. On December 21st, 1984, Regina Platt was found dead of a single shotgun wound to the head. It's ruled a suicide, but there is a lot of speculation that she had help from her husband. Shocker, right? I wonder if there's ever been anybody else that shot themselves with a shotgun and had help from their spouse to do so. Anyway, there was rumors that he'd been screwing around with another woman, and Regina found out and killed herself out of grief. But then again, foreshadowing after knowing what we know about this guy now, I wouldn't put it past him to have blasted his wife with a 12 gauge and then staged it to make it look like a suicide to cover his own ass. There's also some stories of Matix and Platt going around Miami and robbing drug dealers at gunpoint for money, pulling an Omar from The Wire, except not as good at it and not as cool. Because if you've never seen The Wire, Omar might be one of the best characters that has ever existed on a TV show. And also, if you haven't watched The Wire, what are you doing? Stop this and go watch that. That is much better than this. The Wire is fantastic. I personally have been through it at least twice, 2.5 times, because I kind of stopped like partway through one of the seasons this last time I was watching it and started watching The Sopranos for the first time. And I'm hooked on that. He killed he killed 16 Czechoslovakians. He's an interior decorator. His house looked like shit. Oh my god, I love this show. Anyway, so let's kind of put some stuff into perspective here. Miami in the 80s is crazy dangerous. Between 1984 and 1986, there is an ungodly number of murders, 3,931 to be specific, and I cannot make this up. The decade of 1980, so 1980 to 1989, there is 13,640 murders in the city of Miami. The city morgues were so overloaded with dead bodies that the city had to rent out refrigerated trucks to keep the bodies from decomposing too quickly. Season 1 of Dexter, or any large city in 2020 and 2021. Anyway, in the mid 1980s, somewhere around $2 billion a year was being shipped into the ports of Miami from Colombia in the form of cocaine. The city of Miami was the murder and drug capital of the country, and a lot of that had to do with a woman that, at some point in time, I really, really think I want to try to do this episode. We're going to do La Madrina, which is Griselda Blanco, the godmother. And she had an associate that was also a complete psychopath. That one of my favorite shows, Let Them Fight, is covered. Go listen to them. And for some reason, my dumb brain, I'm drawing a blank on the guy's name, and it's so simple. It's like John something. I can't remember his last name, but he was like special forces in Vietnam, and he came back and started killing people for the cartel and just doing some wild, really interesting story. And he didn't like her too much. Now that we have some background on these idiots, let's get into the crimes they committed. Their first little attempt at crime was 1985 when Platt and Matix were running a vending machine company, and they placed a mail order for 10 machines from a Nebraska man named Earl Burnett for a total of $10,000. $1,000 a machine. 1985, that's a lot of money. A weird detail was when they contacted Burnett, they told him that they were connected to, quote, the local boys, which Burnett was probably in the same boat as me, thinking of, okay, who cares? Even if you are connected to the mafia, who cares? Like, this is Oklahoma, not New York, where they actually had like a vending machine union. So he kind of ignores this, whatever. And when they received the machines, they're all banged up and damaged, so they sent them back and demanded their money back. Burnett, again, ignores them and says, I'm not giving you a refund. That's not happening. They were damaged in transport. That's not my fault. Take it up with, UPS or whoever got them to you. One morning in June of 1985, Burnett is leaving his home at around 7:30 when two men approached him. You want to guess who they were? Yeah, it's Platt and Matix. Walk right up his driveway, and they start making demands of the money. Platt is the aggressor in the situation. Basically tells him that you need to give us this $10,000 back, or we're going to kill you. We're both armed. We both have guns. Let's see where we want to go with this, shall we? Burnett tried to get away, and Platt told him that they'd been following him for 2 days and knew his routine. Had they been? Hard to say. I wasn't there. Who knows? Burnett finally told them that he would get him the money back when the bank opened later that day. But he said that they'd have to go to Cull's restaurant for breakfast in Lincoln. And once they got there, he would go to the bank, get the money, and he'd meet them there. What he didn't tell them is that Cull's restaurant in Lincoln was a regular hangout for the local cops. When Burnett got to the restaurant, he ran up to a cop and said that they tried to kidnap him and they threatened to kill him. The cops, taking this super seriously, grabbed these guys, bring them outside, talk to them, search the car, search them, find nothing, and let them go. Platt and Matix went to the local attorney's office and hired him so that they could sue Burnett for slander and defamation. Thankfully, the case never made it to court. So now we're going from trying to strong-arm somebody with vending machines to the chapter that I've titled The Bank/Armored Car Robberies. Slight escalation. A little bit. October 10th, 1985, at around 12:25 p.m., Platt and Matix, possibly another man. There's conflicting reports of somebody else being in the vehicle. If it was somebody else, it was most likely another employee of their maintenance company. Which, hey, this could have been, the brother or just some random dink that they've hired to trim trees. They pulled into the parking lot of the Winn-Dixie, which is now a Whole Foods, and sat there waiting. They'd cased this location out for a few weeks and learned the routine. They know what time the store opens. They know what time the manager gets there. They know what days what manager's working. They also knew when the Wells Fargo armored cars would roll in, which would be in about 5 minutes. Like clockwork. The Wells Fargo truck pulls up in front of the grocery store at 12:30. One of them stayed in the 1979 Monte Carlo, while the other one got out with a 12-gauge shotgun. He ordered the guard to freeze, and at the same time, pulled the trigger of the shotgun and injured the guard that was standing outside the truck. Whichever one that was in the car fired a handgun and then a semi-automatic rifle at the man who's still in the armored car. Which, getting a little hot in a very public place, they loaded back into the car and boogied with $0. So these guys are off to a much less successful start than Larry Phillips and Emil Matasareanu from the North Hollywood bank shootout, the North Hollywood bank robbery, the Bank of America that they robbed there. So these guys are trying to rob an armored car outside of a grocery store and failed. Not a good way to start your career. So we're going to wait just under a month. November 8th, 1985. At noon, Platt and Matix entered the Professional Savings Bank at 13100 South Dixie Highway with a shotgun, a rifle, and a pistol each. Let me clarify. One has a shotgun, one has a rifle. They both have pistols. Because I didn't like how that sounded in my head. I don't like how a lot of things sound in my head. I'm not sponsored by BetterHelp. They ordered everyone down and demanded the teller give them all of the Wells Fargo bags that had been delivered a little bit earlier. They had again done their homework and knew that the money deliveries came in between 11 and 11:30. The teller handed over 3 Wells Fargo bags for a total of $41,469. They boogie out of the bank, hop back into a gold Monte Carlo. We're going to see a theme with the cars going forward. Surprisingly, this attempt, nobody's injured, which is really nice. Now that I've said that, here's where things take a turn for the worse. January 10th, 1986, a Brinks armored car courier opened the back door of the truck at around 10:30 a.m. and grabbed a bag to drop off at the Barnett Bank, which is now Ocean Bank, at 13593 South Dixie Highway. This is less than half a mile from the November 1985 bank robbery. No one said anything at all this time. Either Matix or Platt, one of the two, fired at the guard, striking him in the back with number 7 shot out of a 12-gauge shotgun. Number 7 shot is a pretty common load for bird hunting. It can still kill you, absolutely. But it's more likely going to just hurt like a son of a bitch. It's not as bad as getting hit with buckshot. But what it's not as bad as also is that the other man stepped forward and shot him twice more with a .223. Just for reference for folks on video, this is a .223. Okay? Basically just a souped up .22 with a lot more powder in it. Not as dangerous of a round as what would come out of that. But .223 will ruin your day. But the rifle that was fired was described as either an AR-15 or a Ruger Mini 14, which are the same thing basically. One just looks scarier because it's black. Prove me wrong. After incapacitating the guard, they got away with $54,000 and took off in a 1977 gold Monte Carlo. Shocker. A witness to the crime got the plate number as XQU157 and actually did the stupidest thing he could have done and followed them. You just witnessed an armored car robbery. You just watched these guys shoot somebody 3 times and you went, I should probably get a closer look to see what they're doing. I'm gonna follow these guys and see where they go. Idiot. So they take off. Platt and Matix swapped vehicles into a white Ford truck, and when they got out, the witness took off because he saw that they were still armed. So, remember, I mentioned there was going to be a pattern with the cars? Very similar car, very similar color. I'm sorry, exact same car, similar color, different year. That's because the vehicle used in this one was reported missing October 4th, 1985. It belonged to a man named Emilio Briel, who went missing at an abandoned rock pit in South Dade County after getting after going out target shooting. Much later, after everything is said and done, Beal's bones would be recovered, and they found a fatal gunshot wound to the back of his head. Anybody want to take a wild guess what caliber it might have been, and maybe ballistically what kind of rifle it would be tied to? No. March 19th, 1986. At 9:30 a.m., Platt and Matix entered Barnett Bank, the same bank where they robbed the Brinks truck and shot the guard in January. This time, the bank itself. They held it up with a sawed-off pump shotgun and the same Mini 14 that had been used in the robbery before. The pair made off with their best total yet, $8,000. Well done. They took off in a 1982 two-door black Monte Carlo this time. These guys love Monte Carlos. During the investigation, after everything is said and done, again, they found that the 82 Monte Carlo had been stolen March 12th, 1986, at the same location as the 1977 Monte Carlo, where, where Emmanuel Briel had been killed. Platt and Matix approached the car owner and shot him 4 times. So there just so happened to be another Monte Carlo at the exact same place where they were shooting when they killed this dude for his Monte Carlo. Talk about a coincidence. They stole a car and 2 guns that were in it, which was a Smith & Wesson Model 14, which is a 38, and a Marlin Model 60 22, which, if I am picturing that correctly in my head, I think I had that exact same 22 as a kid. That was, if it's the one that I'm thinking of, that is where I started my gunsmithing journey and proceeded to lose all of the internal workings of the firearm and stashed it in the bottom of my dad's gun cabinet and just pretended it never happened. And then, like, 10 years later, he's like, what the happened to this rifle? And I'm like, oh, at 24 years old, like, I don't know what happened, The owner of this car lived and gave the police and FBI a very, very accurate description of both Platt and Matix and both stolen guns that would be found later in Platt's home after the shootout. After 4 robberies targeting similar places and sometimes the same place, and a murder and attempted murder at the same place, the FBI would start investigating everything. With the frequency and close proximity of the activities, the FBI started thinking that these robberies are probably going to continue in the future, and they're probably all tied together. If there's one thing the government will do, it's hunt you down for money. If you've messed with their money, because the bank's money is the government's money, because it's all covered under, like, the FDIC, which means if a bank is robbed, the federal government has to insure that money and replace it. So they don't like that, believe it or not. They instructed local police to increase patrols around banks and to conduct random check-ins and surveillance of armored cars in the area. With what information the FBI collected, they placed agents of a reactionary squad around the banks of southwest Miami and hoping to catch a glimpse of any of the vehicles that have been used in any of these robberies, or anybody that would match the description given to the FBI and police by robbery victims. The FBI decided that after all the information they've gathered, they're thinking Fridays are going to be the most logical day to plan one of these heists. The reaction squad consisted of 14 special agents under the supervision of Supervisory Special Agent Gordon McNeil. Previous to the shootout that we're about to get into, all 14 agents had been briefed on the robberies and been kind of like informed that the local police had some information, but it was basically all the same stuff they had. And they were also told that local police are going to do absolutely no surveillance for any of this. They're just patrolling the area of these 4 specific banks because they consider these to be the most likely targets. And these banks are separated by about 55 to 60 blocks. So we're going to see increased police activity in an area of about a 7.5-mile radius because of where these most likely target banks are. Friday, April 11th, 1986, 8:45 a.m., the 14-agent team gathered in a Home Depot parking lot. Nowadays, if you see that many federal agents in a Home Depot parking lot, it's probably for something different. They're kind of going on a hunch here that a robbery may be occurring that day. So, to be clear, they don't have any actual proof that this is the day that we're going to have a robbery. It's just kind of gut feeling, going on instinct here. So they split off into teams and they start doing rolling stakeouts, which are basically just cruising around town. We're looking for any gold Monte Carlos, any black Monte Carlos. Hell, we may as well look for anything with a Monte Carlo badge on it. Who knows? These guys have a type, you know? They obviously have no idea who these guys are that they're looking for. They know what they look like. Of the 14 agents on this team, 8 of them would be involved in the shootout. So we need to really focus on them more than the rest of them. So now is a good time to go over where everyone was before this nightmare begins. Supervisory Special Agent Gordon McNeil, who is in charge of the whole thing, is in a vehicle by himself. Special Agent Richard Manizuni was in a car by himself also. Special Agents Ben Grogan and Jerry Dove are in a vehicle together. Special Agents John Hanlon and Edmundo Morales Jr. were in a vehicle together. The gentleman that provided our quote for the beginning of this story. Oh, you are going to love him. Oh, he's so cool. He's so cool. And in the last vehicle we're going to talk about are Special Agents Gilbert and Risner. As the 5 cars of agents canvass the area at around 9:30, Grogan and Dove spot the black Monte Carlo and start tailing it. 2 other cars of agents join the pursuit at the intersection of Southwest and Southwest 122nd Street. The agents pursued Platt and Matix in the Monte Carlo and rammed the car, causing the Monte Carlo to hit a tree in the parking lot of 12201 Southwest 82nd Street. So the parking lot where this tree is basically like a residential, like an apartment building parking lot. And the tree that they hit, they almost hit one of these people's Oldsmobile Cutlass, which would have made this situation so much worse because it's such a nice car. That's one of my, I'm not a big car guy. I love the old Cutlasses. They're just so pretty. Anyway, Agent Manizuni's car comes to a rest on the driver's side of the suspect vehicle. This leads me to think that Manizuni was probably the agent that hit the Monte Carlo and sent it off the road into the tree in the first place. The car that Morales and Hanlon were in made contact with Manizuni's during the chase and would end up spinning out into a lot diagonally southwest of the suspect vehicle. So Manizuni hits them. Morales and Hanlon hit him and just go skating off out into the dingweeds across the street. Probably a good time to set the stage to put everybody in their proper place for this as it's about to happen, because it's about to get real fast. Bullets are going to start flying. So I'm going to try to do this as smoothly as possible so that we try not to lose anybody. Not that I think you guys are stupid, because you're not. There's just a lot of moving parts to this section. Platt and Matix hit the tree, almost hit the Cutlass, and they almost hit a Trans Am, which was be on their passenger side. Manizuni's passenger's door is making contact with the driver's side door of the vehicle that Platt and Matix are in. McNeil comes in from the north and parks his car and parks his car's driver's front fender to the driver's rear fender with Manizuni's vehicle. So they now have them pinned against this tree with two separate vehicles. Grogan and Dove pull partially into the parking lot behind Platt and Matix. Morales and Hanlon are spun out after the impact. They end up in the lot just southwest of where our bad guys are. I'm sorry, I had the wrong name with Risner. It's Gilbert. His name was Gilbert Oronata. I, for some reason, just put his first name in. So Oronata and Risner come in from the north, and they park northwest of the lot. So they're not in the lot, they're just off of the lot. So needless to say, Platt and Matix have absolutely nowhere to go. Here is where the best thing they could have done would have been to roll the windows down and put their hands out and go, hey, what's going on? Well, would you like to exchange insurance information with us after you've caused an accident? You know, not that we have insurance on a stolen car, but since that would be a logical way to end this entire situation, it would make for a really bad episode, I think. Because nobody wants to hear all this lead up to be like, oh, and then they got doinked in a car accident and they gave up. Yeah, go give me money on Ko-Fi. That's lame. Now's where things are going to get hot. During the crash, Manizuni's sidearm has slid off the seat next to him and down onto the floorboard because he just had it on the seat so that if he had to grab it, it's just right there. And these are revolvers, okay? And a lot of cops wouldn't have been like concealed carrying like in their like waistband. They would have been like on the hip, or I don't know. These guys also might strike me as like shoulder holster kind of guys. But his was right there for easy access. He leans down to start grabbing for this thing and can't find it. He looks up and finds himself staring down the barrel of a 12-gauge shotgun. As he ducks for cover, he's shot. He took a loaded bird shot to the back in the back of his head. He rolls out of the vehicle to take cover behind a wall on 82nd Avenue. So as he's trying to get into cover, McNeil gets to the driver's side of Manizuni's vehicle and starts firing across the hood at the suspects. In the interchange, he's shot in the hand. Considering he's, again, carrying a revolver, this is a problem because you can't just hit the button and drop your magazine, put a new one in, rack it, and go back to work. Revolvers don't work like that. They are a little bit more complicated to reload. So being hit in the hand, he can't reload, right? Two of his rounds hit William Matix. One grazed his neck, and the other kind of hit him like glancing like off the side of his head and knocked his ass out. Hanlon and Morales start across the street. They want to get into this fight. As they cross, Morales took a shot to the left arm, and he goes down behind McNeil's car. During the crash, Hanlon lost his service revolver as well, but he's got a little throwdown piece with him. He's got a little .38 snub-nose revolver, Smith & Wesson 5-shot .38, that's down in his ankle holster, which, ankle holsters and like .38 specials, just match made in heaven. Need the show to take off so that I, myself, can buy an ankle holster and a small .38. So he yanks this thing out and he starts firing on Platt and Matix. Hanlon stopped to reload and was hit with shots from the Mini 14, and he goes down as well. Oronata and Risner start firing on Platt and Matix. When they returned fire, Oronata was hit with a metal fragment from a 223 round. It came through the door or the fender area and shattered the dashboard of the vehicle. So we don't really know whether it was something from inside the car that hit him, or if it's a fragment of the jacket of the bullet itself that hit him. Either way, he gets hit with some metal. Not going to feel good. Agents Grogan and Dove take cover on the driver's side of their car, keeping the vehicle between them and the bad guys. So at this point in time, according to witnesses, it was Platt that has the Mini 14, has gotten out of the vehicle and taken cover behind the Cutlass's passenger side door. As Platt's moving from the passenger side of the Cutlass, Dove fired a 9mm round that hit him in the chest, stopping just short of hitting him in the heart. Would have ended this fight just like that. Hey, look at that. I just so happen to have one of those too. So, anybody on video, super curious, that's a 9mm round. So he's one of the only dudes here that probably has a semi-automatic handgun, which probably some type of maybe a Smith & Wesson, maybe a Beretta, maybe an early generation Glock at this point. Who knows? So after the chest shot, Platt is shot again, this time in the right arm. And from the angle during the autopsy, they think that this shot came from probably Agent Risner. It shattered his forearm and it caused him to drop the revolver that he had just pulled out of his waistband. And another round hits him in the forearm, except this one went through his right arm, up into his armpit, and stopped when it hit the inside of his shoulder blade, which, ow. This one in itself would not have been a fatal wound. He keeps firing the Mini 14, and he ends up moving to the trunk of Grogan and Dove's vehicle. I really don't want to give this guy any credit, but he's firing a Mini 14, which, I mean, the recoil of it is not too bad, because it's a 223. It's not a terribly hard recoiling round. The rifle itself isn't light, necessarily. And he's firing this thing offhanded, meaning he's right-handed, so he's firing it with his left hand. And he has to do this because his dominant hand has been taken out of the fight.
Enemy cannot push a button if you disable his hand.
So he's got this semi-not light rifle in his offhand, draped over a just bashed to smithereens right arm that he's using to balance it. He's moving pretty aggressively, though. Grogan and Dove didn't realize just how aggressively he was moving. And the reason that they didn't realize how aggressively he's moving is because they're trying to get Dove's pistol back into the fight. A round that Platt had fired hit the pistol and causes it to be completely inoperable. Now, I couldn't find anything as to say what damage was done to the pistol. But depending on where it's hit, like if he's hit up in the slide, it could have damaged it to the point where when you fire, it wouldn't be able to eject the round, or if it was hit down closer in the like the handle and damaged the magazine or something like that. Doesn't really matter. His pistol is dead. He's out of the fight. Platt rounds the back of their vehicle and fires one round into Agent Grogan's chest, killing him instantly. He turns slightly, shoots Hanlon up in the groin area, swings back around and fires two more rounds, both striking Agent Dove in the head and killing him instantly. So with, 4 trigger pulls, he's taken 3 agents out of this fight, which, again, I don't want to give this asshole credit. That's pretty impressive, unfortunately. At this point in the fight, 7 of the 8 agents are either wounded or incapacitated to the point that they cannot fight anymore. With Grogan and Dove both shot and killed, Platt got into the vehicle that the agents had arrived in, and at this point, Matix has kind of shaken off the round that knocked him out and makes his way to the passenger side of the vehicle that Matix is now in. I'm sorry, that Platt is now in. To make things worse, they're now in this vehicle. They're winning this fight. Agent Hanlon is laying directly behind the car that they're now in. Agent Risner continues to fire from cover. Agent Morales, who's shot and wounded very badly in his left arm, he's been out of this fight since pretty much the very beginning. He was hit like immediately when he was crossing the road. He didn't give a about being shot. He works the action one-handed on his 12-gauge shotgun. According to witnesses and other agents that survived this absolute horror show, this cowboy from Texas and former Marine fired 5 shells, working the pump, firing a shotgun one-handed. So he is firing, setting it down, pumping, bringing it back up, all with one hand, with a shotgun. He fired through the windshield, the driver's side windows, the driver's side front fender. He's shooting this car. When the shotgun runs dry, he stood and drew his .357 and walked towards the car. As he approached the car, Platt fired 3 rounds from his .357 and then took Matix's .357 and fired 3 more rounds. That's when Primarch Morales of the FBI Miami field office approached the vehicle and completes his prime directive. He starts firing. 1 round hits the back seat. Round number 2 hits the driver's side windshield and causes a glass shard to hit Platt in the head. Didn't cause any real severe damage. Round number 3 hit the windshield and fragmented and hit Matix in the face. Again, not a severe wound. Round number 4 is a severe wound, though, because it went straight through Matix's face and his right eye socket. The bullet traveled downward through his facial bones into his neck, where it entered his spinal column and severed his spinal cord. Round number 5 hit Matix in the face again. He does not like him. This time the bullet penetrated the jawbone and neck and came to rest by the spinal column. So, he's dead. That's the end of it for Bill Matix. Such a nice guy. A lovely boy, taken way too soon. Round number 6. Keep in mind, this is a 6-shot .357 revolver that he has. Round number 6 is when the real cowboy shit happens. Morales straight up walked to the driver's side of the car, reached through the window, and shot Michael Platt directly in the heart and ended the fight right then and there. The balls on this guy. Woo! All in all, the gunfight lasted less than 5 minutes. We have 2 dead agents and 2 dead scumbags. I feel worse for 2 of them than the other. All of the deaths and injuries of the agents were caused by Platt with his Mini 14. Matix was pretty much a non-factor in the fight from the beginning up until the time where he got his head exploded in this vehicle. He fired a total of 1 round in this entire thing, and that was the shotgun blast that hit Agent Manazuni. Of the 8 agents involved, only 1, Agent Risner, was not injured. And the only one that didn't fire a single round in this was Agent Manazuni. Now, again, this isn't because he was a chicken shit or anything like that. He lost. He never found his revolver until after the whole fight was over. So he couldn't fire a round because he didn't have any rounds to fire. And to be completely fair, like, his vehicle was right in the middle of this crossfire. So if he hadn't gotten out of the way and he just laid on the floor while everybody shot through his car and he didn't get hit, I would say that was probably an act of God, but he got out of the way. I mean, and again, I'm sure if he could have gotten his hands on a firearm, he would have been involved in this fight. He would have done something to try to end this quicker than it did. Between both sides, around 150 rounds in total were fired. The toxicology reports on Platt and Matix bodies came back with some fairly surprising results. Where, when we did North Hollywood, they talked about, we kind of went over all the like the benzodiazepine and all the other crazy stuff that they found in their systems. These guys came back clean. Nothing. They didn't even test positive for aspirin in their bloodstreams. Nothing. Not a drop. They had survived some fairly severe gunshot wounds and survived longer than they probably should have, especially considering they didn't have any body armor on either. Ooh. Platt's autopsy revealed that his right lung had collapsed from the 9mm round that Agent Dove had fired, and he had 1.3 liters of blood in his chest cavity. So, had Morales not finished him off, eventually that probably would have killed him. It would have taken a while, like another, few minutes, but it probably would have killed him. Because internal bleeding is bad. Surprisingly, if you didn't know that, if you're new here, internal bleeding is not a good thing. It does kind of make me a little happy to know that at least Agent Dove didn't really die without inflicting what would have been a fatal wound on one of these idiots. In the investigation afterwards, most of the blame was laid directly on the lack of stopping power of the agent's firearms. Because most of them had 38s. I believe that Morales is one of the only ones that had a 357, and he went to work with that. There were a couple of agents nearby that could have ended this fight a lot faster because they had fully automatic Heckler & Koch MP5s, but they were miles away, caught in traffic that was caused by the shootout. Also, only 2 of these agents were wearing body armor, and it's lighter armor, so it's not really rated for. It's rated more for pistol rounds than rifle rounds, because even though, again, hold on here, because if you look at these two, this one, the 223, looks like a bigger round, where you have the 9mm, which is a larger projectile, but it moves slower. So that's why it would be more rated for a pistol round, because they move slower, so they have, I guess, more kinetic energy when they hit, where that would be defeated by the body armor because it can kind of catch it and slow it down, whereas the 223 is much faster coming out of the rifle itself. There's a lot of stories of guys overseas shooting people with a 223 out of like M16s, M4s, where they're like, we'd shoot them 7, 8 times and they would just run off because it's just zipping through. It's not causing a lot of damage. Yes, you're bleeding, but it's not leaving as sizable of a wound cavity. So even though these guys have body armor, the 223 out of the Mini 14 is going to zip right through it. Yes, there is body armor that is rated to stop rifle rounds, but it's not something that these guys had. These guys had like the soft stuff that you could like throw a blazer over and you're not really going to see it. Little recap. Richard Manizuni survived a shotgun blast to the back and back of his head. Gordon McNeil survived but was paralyzed after being shot in the hand and in the neck, which that is unfortunate. Gilbert Oronata survived, but he was injured by a piece of shrapnel from a round going through the car. Like we said, we're not sure if it was from the jacket of the round itself or it was something from inside the vehicle where the round went through it and just kind of blasted it at him. John Hanlon survived being shot in the right hand and the groin, which, ouch. Ronald Risner is the only agent that survived uninjured. And he wasn't being a coward and like standing back out of the fight because he's one of the guys that actually hit and caused some damage. Edmundo Morales survived and after he was wounded in the left arm. Had he died early on in this thing. So, say he gets out of the car and he doesn't get shot in the arm. That round misses his arm and goes right through his heart, kills his ass dead right then and there. This would have ended a whole lot differently. These guys would have probably finished all of these agents off, and then who knows? They would have been caught eventually, but who knows how much longer it would have taken? Who knows how many more people would have died had this cowboy from Texas not just rolled up and ended this thing. Agent Benjamin Grogan was shot in the chest and killed instantly. Agent Jerry Dove was shot twice in the head and killed instantly. William Matix died after being shot 6 times, including 3 rounds to the head. Michael Platt, on the other hand, died after sustaining an ungodly 12 gunshot wounds. For his part in the gunfight, Agent Edmundo Morales was awarded the FBI Medal of Valor, which is the highest honor awarded to FBI agents for action taken in the line of duty. In 2001, the village of Pinecrest, Florida, which was incorporated in 1996, honored the 2 fallen agents by co-designating a portion of Southwest 82nd Avenue as Agent Benjamin Grogan Avenue and Agent Jerry Dove Avenue, which is awesome. Street signs and historical markers commemorate the naming of the roadway in in honor of Grogan and Dove. Jerry Dove was a native of West Virginia, and Jerry Dove Drive was named after him in Clarksburg, West Virginia, where the FBI Criminal Justice Information Services Division is located. That's pretty cool. He earned degrees from both West Virginia University and Marshall University, so he was not a stupid guy. In 2014, the FBI Miami field office moved to its new home in Myanmar, Florida, and dedicated the 2 towers of the new office space in memory of Dove and Grogan in a ceremony in April 2015. The first floor contains a memorial to Dove and Grogan, which is really cool. I'll see if I can find some pictures for you folks on YouTube and on video. Every year on April 11th, the FBI Miami field office holds a fallen agent ceremony in honor of Dove, Grogan, and all FBI agents killed in the line of duty. So that's where this story ends. I love doing episodes like this because there's so much stuff that happens all at the same time. And thankfully, this didn't end much worse than it could have. Because, man, somebody farts on a butterfly somewhere, and this ends differently. You know? It's unfortunate that, 2 of these guys were killed for trying to stop these scumbags from robbing more banks and killing more people. Oh, by the way, the bones that they found at the rock quarry where they were shooting, one of those the rounds that killed the guy that they found when they found his skull were 223 rounds, and they were matched to the Mini 14 that was used in all these. So, shocker! Hey, they killed somebody while they're out there too. But anyway, yeah, I really like doing these like bank robbery stories because this is as close to true crime as I'm going to get here. I'm not going to do any serial killers. You guys know that. Not that I don't like them, because I don't like them, but not that I don't want to do them, because I don't want to do them. I'm not the true crime guy here at 1159 Media. Take that up with Chase or Sam. You want some serial killers? Go talk to them about it. I'm not going to do it. You can't make me. Anyway, speaking of 1159, head over to Patreon, patreon.com/1159media. $5 a month gets you early access to History Goon, gets you early access to Guestnicity with Luther, gets you early access to Almost Fiction with Chase, gets you early access to 911 calls with the operator, also gets you early access and backdoor access to the Never Daily with Sam and Chase. That's a value. That's a value. And there might be more stuff coming in the future. Who am I to say? Maybe I'll start doing some Patreon exclusive stuff. We'll see. And if you'd like to support me directly, you can head over to Ko-Fi, ko-fi.com/historygoonpod. Anything you donate there goes directly to me as the creator. I'm not going to beg. I'm not going to ask you to give me money. If you want to, that's awesome. I greatly appreciate it. Anything that you donate there will most likely be converted into Warhammer 40K stuff or paying bills. I should probably pay bills. It's probably a more important thing to do, right? I do have an army to build, but I should probably pay bills first. Anyway, not sure where we're going from here, guys. Not sure. We're approaching This is episode, I don't know what, 13 this season. So we're coming down to the wire because I think I'm only going to do 25 this season and then take a little break and get caught up. Maybe next time we'll do some World War II stuff. Because I don't think we've done that in a while. It's been a minute since we've done World War II stuff. Yeah, let's do World War II. Sounds pretty good, right? So until then, we're all going to die someday. So go out and do some goon shit and leave a mark on the world. Just like all these guys, except for the two bad guys. They sucked. Okay, love you. Bye.